Every sport eventually discovers the same ugly truth. Domination is never free. Somebody always pays the bill. Sometimes it's a rival, sometimes it's a teammate, and sometimes when the monster grows too large, the factory that built him cannot afford to keep him anymore. Marc Márquez walked into Ducati not as a rider seeking redemption, but as a man who refused to let pain define the last chapter of his story. He gambled his pride, his income, and his entire legacy by riding for free at Gresini in 2024 just to answer a single question: does the fire still live in my bones? By 2025, the fire didn't just live, it spread. It scorched the grid, it rewrote the hierarchy, and it demanded tribute. But empires don't run on emotions. They run on budgets. And Ducati, the very same factory that rebuilt itself around Marc's rebirth, now faces a reality more vicious than any title fight. Shrinking markets, collapsing sales, and an ownership group tightening belts harder than carbon brakes, squeezing at Jerez Turn 6. So the question is no longer whether Marc Márquez can stay at Ducati. The question is whether Ducati can afford the storm they summoned. The 2026 paddock carries a strange kind of silence, the kind that follows dominance. When Marc Márquez won the 2025 championship with 5 races remaining, the world focused on the miracle. They celebrated the comeback. They crowned the king again. They forgot to check the receipts. Dominance looks glamorous when the trophies shine under Parc Fermé lights. But off-camera, far from fireworks, the accountants at Borgo Panigale felt reality creeping in like a draft under a locked door. Sales in China? Down. Sales in the United States? Down harder. Audi, the parent company? Bleeding, nearly 12% year over year. And Donald Trump's tariffs? A machete cutting directly through Ducati's 2 biggest foreign revenue streams. While the grid talked about Marc's 11 GP wins, Ducati talked about losses. While fans debated Pecco's collapse, Ducati debated cost-cutting. While the world predicted another 2-year extension, Ducati wondered whether they could even afford one. But here's the bitter irony. Marc Márquez came cheap at first, almost free in Gresini, then just €3 million salary for his first year in factory Ducati and a handful of bonuses. Pocket change compared to the 8-figure deals he commanded at Honda. Ducati got the greatest comeback in modern MotoGP history for the price of a mid-tier star. But the second contract? That's where legends make factories bleed. Marc isn't stupid. He sacrificed salary to resurrect his career, not to live forever on discounts. And Ducati knew the bill was coming. Every win, every psychological demolition, every championship point Marc pulled out of thin air was another zero added silently to his future asking price. This is where the story turns political. Inside Ducati, the hierarchy flipped the moment Marc touched the GP25. The bike responded to him like a creature finding its true owner. Engineers whispered. Rivals panicked. Bagnaia collapsed under the pressure of sharing a garage with a storm. And Ducati, willingly or not, became a team shaped around a man they hadn't even officially built a future for. But dominance creates debt. When Marc crushed the grid in 2025, he also crushed Ducati's margin for error. Now they cannot lose him. Not politically, not technically, not psychologically. The entire structure leans too heavily on him. And that is exactly why Ducati is terrified. Because the negotiations they expected to handle with confidence now arrive in a year where their financial legs are shaking. Audi is cutting budgets until 2026. Ducati is reviewing salaries across every rider. Marc's deal expires, and he wants what he has earned. Meanwhile, in the shadows of this economic earthquake, Honda watches with predatory patience. A blank check in hand, a legacy to avenge, a marketing empire craving resurrection. The same factory Marc escaped now floats the one thing Ducati fears most: financial muscle. If Honda wants Marc, they can pay. If Ducati wants Marc, they must bleed. The paddock pretends they don't see the pressure building. Riders pretend negotiations are still far. Teams pretend loyalty matters. But everyone knows the truth. This isn't about money. It's about power. Marc Márquez controls the sport again, and Ducati, the richest technical empire of the modern era, may not have the capital to match the value of the monster they revived. The silence inside the red garage grows heavier every day, because keeping Marc Márquez costs more than building a fast bike. It costs the future. Who pays the bill when a legend becomes too expensive for the factory he saved? And how long can Ducati pretend the clock isn't ticking? Comment below. You can tell the atmosphere changed the moment Ducati executives began using the phrase cost alignment. That's corporate code for, we're broke, but we don't want you to panic. Except panic is exactly what happens when every Ducati contract expires at the end of 2026. Pecco's deal? Ending. Alex Marquez? Ending. Digia? Ending. And Marc Márquez, the man who carried the project to glory? Ending. This is the part where the sport exposes its teeth. When riders become assets, when loyalty becomes a currency, and when numbers decide whether legends stay or walk. In 2025, Marc earned roughly 7 million euros, including bonuses. By Ducati standards, that was still cheap. By Honda standards, laughable. Honda paid him more than 4 times that at his peak, and they didn't even get half the results Ducati got in one season. This is why Honda re-enters the scene like a ghost returning to collect unfinished business. They don't just want Marc back, they want the symbolism of rebuilding their empire around the man who once made titles look routine. A Honda-Marc reunion is not impossible. It's financially logical. And that's the most dangerous kind of logic in MotoGP. But Ducati has a problem even bigger than money. Marc has leverage. Leverage is not about cash. It's about value. Ducati cannot win without him. Not in 2025. Not in 2026. Not emotionally. Not politically. Pecco Bagnaia tried, he fought, he adapted, he suffered. But the GP25 refused to kneel for him the way it kneeled for Marc. The entire garage could feel it. The shift in loyalty, the shift in momentum, the shift in the unspoken truth. This is Marc's team now, and everyone is orbiting him whether they like it or not. But orbiting a star comes with gravity, and gravity comes with cost. Behind closed doors, Ducati engineers whisper to journalists that Marc brings development clarity no rider has offered since Casey Stoner. He doesn't just ride the bike, he rewires it. He makes it sharper, braver, more violent in the way Ducati loves. But here's the trap. When a rider becomes the development anchor, you no longer negotiate his salary. You negotiate the stability of your entire project. Meanwhile, the rest of the grid circling Ducati smells blood. Aprilia has Bezzecchi now, a rider who isn't scared of Marc and thrives in unstable rhythm. KTM has Acosta, the prodigy sharpening his blade against frustration. Yamaha has Toprak on the horizon, bringing disruption. And Honda has money, the purest weapon in a political war. So Ducati sits at the negotiating table with spreadsheets full of red lines and a rider who refuses to blink. Marc won't sign long-term. Marc won't commit cheaply. Marc won't trade leverage for comfort. Why would he? He won the title on their machine. He resurrected their brand. He lifted them above Aprilia's rise, KTM's promise, Yamaha's hope. And he knows Ducati cannot replace him with anyone who delivers the same combination of brutality, intelligence, and chaos. That's the psychological war. Ducati wants security. Marc wants control. The financial landscape wants blood. As 2026 approaches, the air thickens with tension. Mechanics whisper, managers calculate, rivals smirk. Because everyone sees the fracture coming. Ducati may have built a dynasty around Marc Márquez, but they may not have enough money left to keep him on the throne. Is Ducati preparing to negotiate a legend or preparing to lose one? Comment below. Dominance always has a bill attached. Ducati paid the first installment by choosing Marc Márquez over Jorge Martin in 2024. They paid the second by rebuilding the GP25 for Marc's aggression. They paid the third by absorbing Pecco's collapse. And they paid the fourth when Marc delivered a title that redefined the meaning of a comeback. But now the final bill arrives. Salary, bonuses, development requests, political weight, financial instability, shrinking markets, a parent company cutting costs, and a rival manufacturer ready to weaponize nostalgia and cash. Ducati created a storm, a beautiful, violent championship-winning storm. But storms don't stay loyal, they stay hungry. Marc Márquez will not settle for comfort. He will not settle for discounts. He will not settle for loyalty clauses disguised as negotiation. He will settle for one thing only: respect paid in full. If Ducati can't pay it, he walks. If Honda offers it, he listens. If Aprilia tempts him, he considers. If the 2027 regulation reset opens new doors, he chooses the path that keeps him in control. That is the verdict of this new era. Marc Márquez doesn't belong to Ducati. Marc Márquez belongs to whoever can afford the consequences of having him. And right now, Ducati may not be that factory. From now, where does this put them? The time will tell us. Comment below. Subscribe for more savage breakdowns.